You're listening to Investify, preaching financial independence and assisting investors to achieve a more flexible and free lifestyle through smart financial planning and real estate investing. If leaving the corporate world and jumping into this thriving industry is what you desire, tune in and listen to stories of like-minded individuals who made the leap to financial independence. Equip yourself with the right tips and tricks to start your real estate journey, making active or passive ventures that are highly profitable and rewarding.
What's going on, everybody? You are listening to Investify. My name is Craig Kurlop, aka the Fi Guy, and I'm here with my co-host, Miss Allie Garcet. What up, Allie?
What is up, Craig? How are ya?
I am doing fantasmerific. How you doing?
Fantasmerific. That sounds like a great day. I'm doing well.
Good. How was your holidays?
We haven't spoken in forever.
I know. It's like you're avoiding me.
It's like you smell or something.
I'm watching you.
Is that you outside?
Yeah. I can smell you from here.
Holidays were good. My family and my wife's family, got together at my parents' house. So it was like it was fun. All of us, I think it was like 8 of us under one household.
Wow. Amazing. It's amazing to spend time with family. That's like always the best.
It really is.
It was at your house, you said?
My parents' house, so in New York. My in-laws flew from Minnesota to New York. Yeah, it was a good time.
Wow. You went the distance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, we just did like a totally chill. So we did a bunch of traveling and stuff before the holiday and saw family and all that. And so we decided that we were going to not travel during the holiday and just stack our money, lay low and chill, And that's what we did. We just chilled. It was amazing. Didn't do anything. So
Nice. You saved a lot of money then, because those airline tickets only going up and up. My
oh
goodness.
my gosh. Yeah, they're crazy. And I just hate the hubbub. I hate waiting in the long lines. And I feel like I'm definitely getting older because my tolerance is lowering for these kind of things. So awesome. Speaking of getting older, we've got Deanie, the Beanie Baby, Valentini,
Lamborghini.
Martini. Do you think Deanie, the Beanie Baby Valentini is drinking a martini in his Lamborghini?
I think so. I'm going to go call the cops since he's drinking and driving.
He's drinking and driving. Yeah, that's right. Too bad he's too fast for the cops. But no, Dean's got an amazing story. Dean's a good friend of ours. And so this is a really fun episode. And if you listen all the way to the end, he's got a funny conspiracy, which is like our fourth and final question, which I actually think is true. I think Allie is maybe starting to get convinced that it's true. And maybe we'll convince all of you as well. So listen all the way to the end and get to know Deanie Valentini's story. Let's bring Dean on the show. What's up, everyone? I got a super excited announcement to make. The Fi team is throwing their first ever house hacking intensive. This is going to be in Denver, Colorado, April 5th to April 7th, and we are going to dive deep in house hacking. You are going to learn with a bunch of other future house hackers or current house hackers themselves how to analyze markets, how to find a deal in a neighborhood, how to find the correct house, the correct layout, how to run the numbers, how to build your team of agents, of contractors, of property managers, you name it. And we're going to do all of this together in person in Denver. That's going to be just part of it. It's going to be even better when we actually go to houses in Denver. A couple of my personal house hacks that I've already done, some people on our team's house hacks that they've done, as well as some that are on the market right now. So you can see the before and the afters of what a house hack might look like. This is going to be the first time we throw this event. I don't know when we're going to be throwing it again. Make sure you go to thefiteam.com/workshop to buy your tickets. Tickets are just $297, but if you use the code INVEST2FI, you'll be getting 20% off, and the whole ticket is refundable when you do a deal. So that's right. So go to the phi-team.com/workshop, put in the coupon code invest2phi to get your 20% off. And then when you do a deal, when you close on your next deal or your first deal, you will be getting that back 100%. Hope to see you guys all in Denver. I can't wait to meet y'all in person, and I'm super excited for this event. We'll see y'all there. Dean Valentini, welcome to the show, my friend. How you doing today, dude?
What is up, Craig? I'm doing great. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. I hope you don't mind that we call you Deanie.
It's all good. It rhymes with more stuff, I guess, right?
It really does. I was just thinking, like, they could make a Beanie Baby out of Deanie and call it like the Deanie Beanie Valentini Baby.
I don't want to ruin the episode, but that's actually my entire financial independence and retirement plan. Is I have Beanie Babies downstairs that are worth supposedly $500,000. So, just saying, like, that's really the key.
Do you have like that crab one or whatever? Isn't it like, was it? There's like some crab that's worth like $100,000, and like we have it. We actually have.
Do you really?
Yeah, we have it. Like TY, legit everything. But then I think like we got it. Like there's like the big one is worth a lot, but we got like the McDonald's Happy Meal one, and we're just like, oh, it's probably not worth anything. It's probably worth about as much as a small fry.
Yeah, I'm skeptical, but I'm really holding out for that payout, that big payday.
Yeah, that was like the oh my gosh, Dean, you're gonna make fun of me, but what were those things that like were all the rage last year? Not EFTs, NFTs.
Oh, NFTs.
Yeah, it's like the NFTs of the '90s. Like everyone thinks they're worth something, but actually,
yep,
they're really not. Okay. Anyway, Deanie, speaking of NFTs and Beanie Babies and all in the '90s, tell us where it all started for you in terms of financial independence.
Yeah. The ripe young age of 0, born in upstate New York and hung out there for a while. And so really like my financial independence journey, I say started with what I call my accidental house hack in Florida. So I was stationed there with the Air Force. I was living in a buddy's house and like paying him rent, he's paying the mortgage, I'm paying his mortgage. And I was like, man, I can do this. Like, why can't I do this? I can do this. So didn't know about Bigger Pockets at the time, like didn't know about house hacking, didn't know any of that stuff. I was like, I'm just going to buy a house, get roommates and have them pay for what ended up being most of the mortgage at the time, wasn't covering the whole thing. And like no intention of investing or, owning a portfolio or any of that stuff. So that's really where it all started, was with that first house, just a normal 3-2 starter house, single family home, like super basic, nothing crazy, nothing special. I wasn't going to go like burr it or fix it up or anything. Like it was pretty much turnkey. It was great. Used my VA loan and yeah, that was really the kickoff.
Amazing. Allie, do you know what this kind of sort of sounds like?
This kind of sort of sounds like the
for real deal. Dean, tell us about your first deal, down in Florida. Give us all a tea, how you found it, all the numbers, all that good stuff.
Yeah, let's see. So it was in Fort Walton Beach, so Northwest Florida, the Panhandle. We call it Lower Alabama because pretty much what it was, both culturally and geographically. Great area. I loved it though. I still love it. But it was, I think, $159,500. So I bought it for $160K. Like I said, used my VA loan. So I put down essentially nothing, a couple grand to close, put a couple grand into it in terms of like throwing in some LVP flooring and replacing like old outlet covers and stuff like that. But other than that, it was pretty much turnkey, like I said. So entry cost was very low. VA loan, for those who don't know, is like probably the greatest loan product out there, especially for house hacking. You can buy up to 4 units with it. It's awesome. So got into the house for very little, started, like I said, renting out one of the bedrooms to a friend for like $800 a month. The mortgage at the time was like $900 a month. So I was pretty much covering everything, coming out of pocket a little bit for utilities, that sort of thing. And that was how it got started while I lived there. Moved away, had another buddy at the time that I worked with move in, and they were, I think, in total paying $1,300 or $1,400 a month. So I was cash flowing a little bit on it for the first couple of years. He lived in there for a while. He moved out. Next tenant moved in and ended up making about double the mortgage on just a single family home after a couple of years. So really lucrative through no fault of my own.
while you were living there, did you have any roommates, or did you just buy the 3-2 and live there yourself?
Yeah, so that was I did get a roommate almost right away when I first started living there. Yep,
And how much was he paying?
about 800 a month.
800. And then did you have another roommate or just one?
No, just the one. So the third bedroom was just kind of chilling, extra space.
Okay, cool. So yeah, obviously at this time, like if you probably were to go back and you know what you know now, you probably would have rented out that other bedroom.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I think that's like the funny thing is that like house hacking is not a new concept. Like we've heard people's parents and grandparents and maybe even great grandparents do it, right? For like 50 cents back in like the 1920s. But um, you know, but the fact is that like you just didn't like all back then before bigger pockets, before hearing about all these other influencers, it just wasn't intentional. And so I think that's the difference between educating yourself and being able to do something and do it like the right way and learn from hundreds of others before you versus just kind of going into it blindsided. And so it sounds like you moved out. Did you move out right after a year?
Yeah, I actually moved out before a year. I got orders. So I got military orders to go out to California. So I was able to, they say the stipulation of any owner occupied loan, right, is that you have to intend to live there for a year. And in the military, we have kind of an exemption of like, hey, if you get orders, it's not your fault. It's not your decision. It's not your call. So I kind of got out of that a little bit, which worked out great because I ended up making more on it after I moved out than when I lived there.
Right. And you just rented as a long-term rental, right? You didn't do any of the fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing special, nothing crazy. Just annual lease, long-term rental. I did the rent by the room a little bit, like I said, but right now it's just a normal annual long-term lease with a normal tenant in there.
And it seems like you were renting it out to buddies or maybe people that like other Air Force members. Let's talk about that. Were the people that you already knew? Like, were they already your friends? Did you have any issues? Or did you advertise this elsewhere where people found out about your property that just happened to also be in training?
Yeah, no, I was either very lucky or I don't know what, but at the beginning, yeah, it was just buddies. It was friends that worked in the same squadron I did. So it was very easy, like didn't have to advertise. I didn't screen, which was probably not good, but we were friends, and I suppose that could go either way, good or bad. Sometimes, people have horror stories about living with friends who are probably now no longer friends because of it. But everything worked out great. I mean, it was all very very bro net. So
Amazing, man. And so what happened when you moved to California?
they kept living there. Went through the one dude stayed in for I think 2 years after I moved away, and then I finally had to turn it over. And actually, by that time, I had gotten into more intentional real estate investing and done a lot more education on bigger pockets and et cetera. So I kind of knew the ropes in terms of how to advertise, how to market the property, how to screen tenants, and all that stuff. So luckily, I was at that point where the turnover was not an issue, and I think I had maybe a day of vacancy between tenants. I don't think I've had more than a total week of vacancy on that place since I bought it in 2017. It's been really easy to fill. Yeah.
That's amazing. And how did you find, like, was it just on the MLS or like, how did you find it? How did you know that location was good?
Yeah. Well, I had lived there for a couple of years in that area before I bought, which is, in hindsight, kicking myself. Like I wish I had more time in the market and maybe had gotten more than one property out there. But yeah, it was just found an investor friendly realtor, worked with him. He knew about kind of the strategy I was looking to do. And yeah, we just found something on MLS and that was it.
Amazing. It's like, I feel like investor friendly realtors are like somewhat important when you're trying to find an investment property.
It's funny how that works, right? Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. So just to recap this property, you bought it in 2017 for about 160. Your mortgage payment all in was about 900. At first you were getting 800 for a room. Now you're getting 1300 for the whole thing. How much do you think it's worth today, to finish the story?
Yeah, I keep and actually just to clarify a point, 1300 was for a bit, and then now it's actually at 1800 a month, which is still under market rent. So I would say I could probably pretty easily get 2000 a month for it right now. But I've been prioritizing, and a lot of it has been referrals. So my previous tenant referred this tenant, and I was like, hey, if I get a good tenant in there, I'm willing to take a little bit of a hit, quote unquote, on the rent. To avoid things like turnover, to avoid things like, risk of them destroying something or just being needy or not a good tenant. So my personal philosophy is to not make it all about money. I think there's a more holistic view you can look at when you're trying to get tenants in there. And it's worked out great for me so far. So hopefully that's not just luck, but yeah, so 1,800 a month right now. Market's probably 2,000 a month. Value of the property, I would say probably a little over 300K right now. So it's just about doubled in value in about 5 years, 6 years. So
That's crazy. So just by owning that thing, you're basically cash flowing like almost $1,000 a month. You've made about $150,000 to your name, and that was just like one small decision that you bought or that you made back in 2017.
just a happy little accident.
Awesome, man. Cool. So like, did you continue when you went to California? Did you continue to house hack, or could you do it out there?
No, so not that I couldn't do it, but I decided not to. And then when I got, Rocky very well as my business partner with 18 Alpha, when we started looking into investing, we actually made a conscious decision not to do so in California. We can talk maybe more about that later, but the reason I didn't buy when I moved out was I had to live on base because of test pilot school. I had to live on base, so I didn't have the option to house hack out there. I could have bought and had it just purely investment property, but I could not owner occupy, which kind of throws a wrench into things a little bit in terms of the profitability and the ease of doing that. And then that coupled with just the environment out in California, as you know, it's very tenant friendly. In hindsight, probably a huge mistake with the appreciation we saw over those couple of years. I mean, any property I bought out there in a decent area probably would have tripled in value. So even if the tenants like destroyed the place, I probably would have still had just a buttload of equity in it. But hey, hindsight's 2020, and that was what I thought was the appropriate decision at the time. So live and learn.
Yeah. Can you explain what you mean by like it wasn't ideal if it wasn't owner occupied?
Yeah. So, and this is one thing I'm running into now as well is already owning a couple of house hacks. It's like, especially if you're already living for free because your roommates, your tenants, whatever, are paying the mortgage. You don't have that rent to offset. So like when you first get into house hacking, you're either renting or, you're paying a mortgage on a property that you're not getting income on. So by getting into an income producing property, a cash flow producing property, that rent that you're offsetting, let's say you're renting for $1,000 a month, that is basically adding on to your income. And it's even better than income because you don't get taxed on what you don't spend. So that's one of the huge benefits of house hacking when you're first starting out, that as you get more and more properties, it's like, well, I'm living for free, so I don't have rent to offset. So it kind of needs to work as a standalone property, whether or not I'm living there. So, and if you're occupying a room, like that's $800, $1,000 a month for that room that you're not getting because you're living in there. So it cuts into your income. You don't have that other rent to offset, and those are the things that I think make it a little bit more difficult from a cash flow perspective.
And while you were in California, I want to talk about like managing your property out in Florida, or did you get a property manager?
No, we have, for my personal and our business investment properties, have self-managed currently to this day from day one. So we have never had a property manager in place for any of our properties.
Well, why?
Why? Because I'm greedy and I like the extra 10% in my pocket.
Did you run into any issues or like, because being in test pilot school, like they already require that you live on base. Like it's a pretty demanding couple of years. So while you're busy, like up in the air and you can't respond to tenants, what did that look like?
Yeah. Again, I don't know whether we're lucky or good, maybe a little bit of both. But it really no significant issues, just a shortcut answer. But it's funny because with the right systems in place, like it's almost better than having a property manager because you kind of are more in control and what you have you have the stick, as we say, like in flying, you have control, you have a handle on what happens when and how it happens. And you're not kind of reliant on somebody that you may not know very well or may not trust. And I actually have a funny story about that, but go ahead, Allie.
What are a couple of the systems that you have? Or maybe like, what's your favorite? Like when you say you have systems in place to be able to make it nice and smooth, what's one of them?
Yeah. So we we just like to automate as much as possible. So the less the human is in the loop, whether that's me or another human, the better, because 90% of error comes from humans. If you can make a good system that plans for all the contingencies. So one example of that would be maintenance tickets. I could have a tenant, I could give them my personal number and have them call me every time that the toilet backs up. Or we could get them onto an online, maintenance ticket system where they have an issue. They log on to the website, the same website they pay rent through, the same website we sign leases through and do screenings through. They log on to their little portal there, and most of these websites now have apps as well, so they can do it right from their phone. And they create a maintenance ticket. They say, hey, here's the issue. They can upload photos, they can upload videos, kind of describing it, say what's going on. And then that's the basic version. And then from there, you can kind of go to the moon in terms of how much else you connect it to on the back end. So like we had our maintenance, our handyman tied into that. So now he gets a notification. If it's something he can handle, he can go take care of it, get dispatched. The tenant can set a priority to it and say, hey, clogged toilet, kind of medium priority, or like the kitchen's burning down, probably high priority, right? So then he decides how to essentially disposition that and say, I need to go fix this today, or maybe it can wait a couple days, and depending on his schedule and how busy it is. Or if it's something that he can't handle, it's outside his expertise, you need a licensed electrician or whatever to take care of it. We have kind of our Rolodex of contractors and subs that we say, all right, let's vector this to them. And most, if not all of that, happens pretty automatically. So.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. How do you go around, how sometimes tenants think that something is an issue when really, no, that's the way it operates, or something like that. How do you go about those maintenance tickets that are put in when really there's nothing to do? Because to avoid paying for the handyman to go out there when it's a non-issue.
Yep. And yeah, we've had a lot of that, obviously. And part of that is just having a good team in place. So we trust him. We have a great relationship with him, and we know that he is smart and capable enough to kind of make that decision. First of all, from the maintenance ticket, hopefully, if possible, right? If they give some info and he goes, oh no, that's just X, like that's how, like you said, that's how it's supposed to be. Or worst case, he makes a trip out there, and the way we have our maintenance person in Ohio for our investment properties up there, I will say he's pseudo salaried. So we pay him monthly. And then if there's kind of a standard amount of work that we get out of that, and if it's like way above and beyond that, then maybe we'll give him some extra, or if he has to go buy materials, we'll reimburse him for the materials. And he actually has an employee credit card, one of our business credit cards. He has an employee card, so he doesn't have to like ask us permission under a certain amount, anything. It's like, hey, just go take care of it, because we have that trust, we have that relationship. And that didn't happen on day one, obviously. Like that's something you build up to. But so we can afford him going out and checking it out and saying, oh, it's nothing, you're good. Because it's kind of rolled in. Whereas with most handymen, or, you call up a plumber, it's going to be $100 just for them to go visit the property, even if they don't do anything. So that's really worked out well for us for that paradigm. But maybe, there's obviously different ways to do it for everybody.
Awesome, man. I love that. I think it's like, people always get scared of like buying out of state or moving away. And I've heard a lot of people say, I don't want to buy here because I'm moving in 6 months or 12 months. I'm like, dude, that's like the best reason to buy, because you can like buy with the intent on living there, and then like, oh, your job changed. Yeah. And then you can go buy somewhere else, and you can kind of like house hack multiple times. It's kind of like a little hack that you can get more than one house hack in a year if you do it that way. Just remove that limiting belief that you can't manage a property from afar, because you're doing it, Dean. A lot of other people are doing it. And then like worst comes to worst, there's plenty of property managers out there that will be able to help you out. All right, Dean. So you're kind of, how long are you in California for?
3 years.
Okay. So from 2017 to 2020?
Yep. Yeah. Very end of 2017 to very end of 2020. Yep.
Right. And so at that point, you're not buying. Are you buying out of state at this point, or where's your portfolio stand?
Yeah. So it was my Florida property was my first one. And then right after that, Rocky and I started getting into just the purely investment properties up in Dayton, Ohio. So before I left California, I want to say it was beginning of 2020. February 28th, 2020 was our first fourplex closing. So like you said, we took the plunge on the out of state thing, and we decided, I think in like December, we started talking, and we were, just chatting over some whiskey, and we're like, hey man, real estate investing thing sounds pretty cool. Like there's a lot of advantages to it. Looks like it could be really lucrative, and, good for long-term wealth and generational wealth, and retiring early and all that fun stuff. And we had both been listening to a bunch of Bigger Pockets, and we decided in December, we're like, let's start researching markets and get into it. And then in February, 3 months later, we already had our first fourplex. So, it's all about that taking action, and don't go off half cocked, but like, we did the education, we did the research. We talked to a lot of folks, mentors, and folks who gave us a lot of firsthand advice, and people who had already done the things that we were wanting to do, and we felt ready. And then we took the plunge.
Awesome. So like, how do you give confidence? Like, how did you pick Ohio? How did you pick that fourplex? How did you run those numbers?
Yeah, learning through reps, I guess, as far as like underwriting goes. So hopped on Bigger Pockets, used some of their calculators for free that they have on their website, and just started analyzing properties and said, all right, what does this look like? And then got more experience through just, we run into a question we didn't know the answer to, like, I wonder what utilities would cost in this area. Start doing research, come back. Now we have that answer for all the future properties we analyze, which is a huge benefit of focusing on like one or two main markets, because you really get to learn, and you can do like what I like to call napkin math, right? You just real quick, but very accurate estimates, because you know the area, you know how much things cost, you know what things look like. You're like, this area, if a house is 100K, it's garbage. It needs a lot of work. You just start to learn those things as you look at more and more properties and do more and more research. So that was a big thing that helped us gain that confidence. And then again, like I said, just talking to people who had been there and done that. And as for how we picked Dayton, it was like actually a number of factors. The market metrics were important to us in terms of job growth, wage growth, population growth, stuff like that. That is critical to, making sure your market doesn't go tits up, to be a little crude, but and continues to grow and appreciate. But also it was the contacts. Like we knew people there. We knew people who had been successful in that market. They were giving us advice. They were giving us referrals. They were giving us references. And they were giving us, firsthand kind of boots on the ground knowledge that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise, because we didn't live there. We were both still in California at the time. So those were kind of the factors that went into it. Yeah.
Have you ever even been to Dayton, Ohio?
Yeah. So there's an Air Force base there. So I had been there a couple of times for a couple of weeks at a time, but nothing extended. I certainly didn't know the area very well. Anthony had he has in-laws up there, but like that was it. We really going, just the people we were talking to, the connections we were making, and then that very limited experience was our only firsthand experience.
That's amazing. I think that's like, people overthink a lot about like what market to invest in if they do want to invest in like a cheaper market, if they're in a more expensive one. It's like, just go where people are. Go where the success is. Like that's how I picked. I picked North Carolina, Fayetteville. You guys all know Shelby. Like she's amazing. I met her at a conference, and she's like, "Oh, this is exactly what we're doing." I'm like, "Oh, that's exactly what I want to do. Can I help? Can I be your client?" She's like, "Of course." And that was like how the conversation went, right? And now we're friends. So like,
well, that was like how you and I met. I friggin' slid into your DMs because I had listened to a bunch of Bigger Pockets episodes, heard you, knew I was moving to Denver, knew you were in Denver, and I said, "Hey, you're doing what I want to do. Can you help me out?" And you're like, "Hell yeah."
Yeah, there you go. It's funny how that works. How almost everyone is willing to help someone out if they're like in a similar position that they were once in. So I guess at the end of 2020, kind of when you're in your last days in California, what did your portfolio look like at that time?
Let's see. I think by the time I left, I think we had gotten our first fourplex and our first duplex there. So I think we had 6 units. Yeah, the duplex we bought, I think like 3 months after the first fourplex. So it was kind of rapid fire. It just fell into our laps a little bit. Our realtor up there, she came across it and she said, "Hey, I think this is exactly what you guys are looking for." And we said, "Well, we just bought one, but we still have some funds, so let's do it." And went after a second one right away, just because it fit the buy box. It fit really well, and we saw. Unfortunately, this is kind of the not so happy ending portion of it. It still worked out great. It's still a good property, and it still makes sense. But we went into it with the intention of a student rental. It's right off a campus right there, UD. And the previous owner was also an investor, and he was making bank with it as a student rental. But for those who remember the beginning of 2020, what else happened then? Oh yeah, that whole COVID thing where schools and everybody else shut down. So was not nearly as lucrative as we were expecting. But it still worked out as a long-term rental. And that's the importance of having multiple exit strategies and backup plans. Is we were like, okay, if for whatever reason we can't get these student rental income rates, can we still at least float the property on long-term rents? And as it turned out, we couldn't get those student rates because of COVID hitting everything. But we didn't have to foreclose on it. We didn't have to sell it because we had planned for a reasonable worst case scenario.
So you're buying all these properties with your own money then? You're not actually like raising money at this point?
Yeah, the first two were just us. Were just the savings that we had built up.
Okay, awesome. And so I know we're going to get to where you're at now, but tell us a little bit about the move. So I know now you're in California. I think I know where you went next, but why don't you tell us where you went next and kind of take the story from there?
Sure. Yeah. So end of 2020, I got orders out to Denver, Colorado. So I came out here and started house hacking in Denver, which at the time wasn't as expensive as it is now, but it's not far off. It's only been a couple of years, so it wasn't far off. So for everybody out there who, Denver's too expensive or my market's too expensive, I would challenge you, and feel free to reach out to me in particular, because I like to kind of throw that challenge out there that I can make pretty much any market work for a house hack. You might have to get a little uncomfortable. Really depends on your strategy, and that's one of the benefits of house hacking as well, is it's so scalable. If you want to rent by the room, you're going to maximize your profits. If you want to own a fourplex and live in one of the units, that might not work in every market, or it might just minimize your cash flow, or you might not even be cash flowing. You might still be coming out of pocket a little bit. But I challenge people. Like, I've yet to see a situation in which house hacking cannot benefit somebody if they're willing to at least get a little uncomfortable. And maybe even that means getting a single family home and doing some work to it to kind of turn it into a duplex. That's what I did. So like, I didn't go the hardcore route. I didn't rent by the room. And it was still, it still made a ton of sense. It still saved me a ton of money. And it's still, I think almost from day one, I broke even. So I really wasn't coming out of pocket much at all, even right from day one, even in Denver.
Yeah. Why don't we go into like, just because it's so different, like a $150,000 property in Florida and then a property in a more expensive market like Denver. Like, let's just like briefly, like, let's just go through those numbers real quick. Like, it's 2020. What'd you buy it for? What'd you rent it for? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think my first Denver property I bought for $530, and so the mortgage on that, rates were still pretty low at the time. So I want to say my mortgage was $2,400, somewhere around there, and I rented it for $2,350 for the upstairs, and I lived in the downstairs. Now I did this one, I put a little bit more work into. So I had, I built a kitchen out in the basement. So I was able to essentially create two completely separate units, separate laundry, separate entrances, separate kitchens, separate living areas, separate bedrooms, separate everything. For all intents and purposes, it was a duplex. It was not legally zoned as a duplex, but there was an upstairs unit. There was a downstairs unit. If I never want to see my roommates / tenants / neighbors, I didn't have to. It was very private, which I liked. But that was my approach to the kind of, the more expensive market problem, if you will.
Yeah. And did you have any issues with the zoning?
No. You and I have talked about this in the past. It's like, don't cause issues, and most people won't, question it. That's not to advocate for anybody doing anything illegal or unsafe or whatever. But like, be a good neighbor, go meet your neighbors, talk to them. All my neighbors have known what I'm doing in terms of house hacking. I have an Airbnb now. Like, all my neighbors know I run an Airbnb. It's all above board and everybody's happy. Like, just have a good relationship, be a good neighbor, be a good steward, and most people are going to be totally fine with it.
We hope this episode is inspiring you to take action. If you're thinking about becoming a real estate agent or an agent who wants to join an investor-friendly team, just hit me up on Instagram at the Fi Guy, because we are growing our team in Denver, Seattle, San Diego, and Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, but also adding to our network in all 50 states. And if you didn't already know this, the Fi team provides a super supportive environment with one-on-one coaching, accountability, and ongoing training to help develop kick-ass, rock star, investor-friendly real estate agents. So hit me up on Instagram at the Fi Guy, shoot me a DM, and we'll set up a time to chat. Can't wait to chat with you. Yeah, and I think there's a strong distinction here between whether you've got a duplex or a single-family home with a mother-in-law suite. And so this is why you need an expert in your area, or like at least or an investor-friendly agent or someone who knows what they're doing, because there's a very big distinction. And so essentially, if Dean were to like close off the upstairs from the downstairs with a wall, it's now considered a duplex. You need to be able to access the downstairs from the inside, and it can be an exterior solid core door that just happens to be on the inside that locks both ways so no one can get in or out, and that would still be considered a single family home with a mother-in-law suite. And so that's one way you can kind of get around playing by the rules. You're not making it a duplex. You're not metering out the utilities. You're not doing any of that stuff. So you are above board. It's perfectly legal to do that. Technically, if you're going to do plumbing or electrical or anything like that, like you're supposed to pull permits, 90% of people don't. As a professional, I'm going to tell you that you should, but I'm going to say that 90% of people don't. And really all you got to do is just make sure your contractors are licensed so that they know what the code is and they've worked to those standards before, and just say, hey, I'm not going to pull permits, but would you please make this to code? And then you can just go check it and make sure it all works.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I did, right? I didn't build walls. I didn't do any of that stuff. I put up some doors to keep the privacy and the separation. And that's it. And all that stuff, 90+% of that stuff is reversible, or really 100% with a little bit of work. So if you wanted to take that stuff out downstairs and turn it back into just a, rec room or whatever, you totally can.
And how much did that cost?
So I did most, if not all of the work myself on that one. Materials ended up being about 7 or 8K. But it was pretty minimal. Really, it was just building out the kitchen downstairs, and moving some laundry hookups. That was about it. And the doors.
So you did the plumbing and electrical and all that stuff yourself?
I did. Yep. A lot of YouTube University. I've had a lot of experience doing that type of stuff myself previously anyway, so I felt comfortable going into it. There was nothing I did that I felt unequipped to do. So I guess for what that's worth. Now I'm also not licensed, but
Nice. So you're basically a plumber yourself. You're an electrician. You're a test pilot. I think you're getting out of the military. What is next for you? Like the next 12 months, and what does the future look like?
Yeah. Small correction, flight test engineer. So not officially a pilot, but I appreciate that. So yeah, I actually separated, 10 days ago, the end of the calendar year of 23. So I am officially free.
Yes. Congrats.
Yeah. Financially free at 33, or at least now I'm 34, but I was 33 when I reached financial independence. So, and plus financially free at 34 doesn't rhyme. So, gotta take some liberties, right?
Gotta go back to Deanie Beanie.
That's right. Yeah. See, it's all about the rhymes. I'm telling you, that's the important stuff.
Beanie Babies are financially free.
Yeah, telling you, that's my wealth strategy, man. Like I think it's repeatable. I think people can go back in time. Yeah, if you can go back in time and buy some. But what's next? So Rocky and I had always had commercial real estate in our sights. So we wanted to scale up. We wanted to go to large multifamily and not necessarily syndicate, but buy larger apartment complexes and kind of get into that scale. About 6 months ago or so, we kind of made a vector change and decided that, partially based on what we've seen from other folks who we know who are in that space, partially based on the state of the market, a lot of uncertainty in commercial real estate over the past 6 to 9 months, and then also just learning about new things, we decided to go the business buying route. So acquisition entrepreneurship, business buying small businesses, like that's where we're putting all our eggs, putting all our focus on right now. So that's kind of we've dove deep into that whole process and learning all about it. We've been communicating with brokers, with owners. We've been underwriting a ton of deals. We have not yet gotten under LOI. We've been pretty close a couple of times with a couple of offers we've made, but that's the stage we're at right now. And that was we just had our annual goal setting. So getting to close on a business or maybe two in 2024 is really our big goal right now.
That's cool. What kind of businesses are you looking at?
So I'll get up a little bit on a soapbox for this. So I'll say our buy box is primarily service-based businesses. If they can be real estate aligned, even better, because of our experience with it and also the alignment, right? So if I buy a landscaping company in Denver, I know a lot of folks who need some landscaping. So that would be helpful, although it's certainly not a requirement. It's just kind of a nice to have. But I will say one thing we've heard and learned a lot about that is don't people to put too much emphasis on what type of business. Like, I have plumbing experience, I'm going to go buy a plumbing company, or I'm passionate about bicycles, I'm going to go buy a bike shop. Not necessarily the best decision, for a couple of reasons. It's anything that's a hobby that becomes work, you're probably going to like a lot less when everybody else is out riding bikes and you're stuck in the shop fixing them. So that's one side of it, as well as, more importantly, in my opinion, is it's not about what you want or what you need. It's about what the business needs. So if you go find a business and that business requires marketing skills, sales skills to be successful and to grow, is that what you bring to the table? Or are you just buying this business because it's a plumbing company and you know plumbing, but you don't know anything about marketing? So you're not going to be able to make that business grow or make it as successful as it could be. So that's the fit that I think people should be prioritizing when they're looking at potential businesses to buy is, hey, there's a real opportunity. And this is one of our strengths in particular. There's a real opportunity to add technology to this business, add automation, get the website up and running or get it better, get online payments going, just simple stuff like that. Get a CRM, get a contact list with their customers and have them on a drip, have them on a repetitive contact, get that repeat business stuff that a lot of businesses, especially the older owners, it's largely boomers, right? That they just don't know that they should be doing, don't know how to do it, haven't spent the time to do it or the money to hire somebody else to do it. There's a ton of opportunity there for people who are technologically inclined and can put those systems and processes and automation in place, and makes a huge difference, as you guys know, as really successful realtors, like how much difference that CRM and those systems make in terms of generating revenue.
100%. And man, okay, so what you just talked about, like, is also touched on the book E-Myth for those that haven't read it, and this is interesting to them. Like, it's just because you find enjoyment on the service doesn't mean you're going to like the business aspect of that service or product. And this is also very like Cody Sanchez too, like reaching out to the boomer generation who have kids that do not want to inherit the family business. Therefore, the mom and pop owners have nothing else to do but to just shut it down. Not even sell it. They're just shutting it down. There are so many people like that in that position. My question to you is, I know this is kind of a little bit off topic, but it's similar to real estate too, where people can either look at the product, have a filter for 3-bed, 2-bath homes, or reach out to potentially older people or investors that are looking to maybe upgrade. They're looking to offload those properties to you. Which one comes first, the product, the chicken or the egg, like the person, the community, and I think you may have mentioned this already before, or the business, I guess.
Yeah, I think it is both. That's kind of a cop-out answer, but it's like that, when we are analyzing businesses, I will look into, it'll pass the first stage of the filter if it meets our desired EBITDA or our desired profit, essentially. If it hits that metric and it's not necessarily a business that I would have considered otherwise, maybe I'll look into it a little bit further, and vice versa. Like, I think, well, okay, so I think there's your answer as I talk through it. I don't know that I would do it the other way around as easily. So I probably wouldn't look further into, a service business that fits our kind of industry, if you will, if it doesn't hit our numbers, our criteria in terms of earnings or profitability. So I guess there's the answer. We put a lot more emphasis on the actual profit, the actual numbers.
So I've got a question about that. Like, don't you think that's where the value add is in a business, though? Is like, let's say this operator is not operating efficiently. Obviously, it will not show up in the numbers. And so, like, how do you identify by making numbers that didn't work? Wouldn't that then dramatically increase the value of the business and essentially your portfolio?
You're 100% right. So it's about how much risk you're willing to take and how much effort you're willing to put in. So that would be more of what I would say is a turnaround business where it's in distress. It's like buying a flip, right? So I don't know that I'd recommend too many people go out and do a hardcore flip for their first real estate investment. Likewise, I don't know that I'd recommend that too many people go out and do a turnaround of a business or try to do a turnaround of a business for their first acquisition. It's There's a lot of unknown unknowns, stuff that you just don't know and you don't even know to look out for. And that business is at a much higher risk of failure. Whereas an established business, one that is at least running well, but still has that opportunity for growth in terms of things like placing a good, marketing lead, placing a good sales lead, or implementing technology. Those are businesses where you can still just go right in, replace your income on day one with your owner's salary, have a proven track record of product market fit, have a proven track record of consistent revenue, and really there's almost no risk there, as little as you can get, as long as you don't screw it up and do something stupid. I mean, SBA has numbers like for the businesses that they lend on. If you're doing a leveraged buyout and you're buying a small business with an SBA loan, less than 2% of SBA loans default on buying businesses. So the risk there is pretty low. I mean, I don't know where else you can get a 98% success rate for doing something like that. So that's my take on it. Kind of long-winded answer, but
Awesome. Yeah, it's funny how you can kind of always use the lenders as like a gut check, right? Like a hard money lender won't lend on a real estate asset that doesn't make sense, and an SBA officer won't lend on a business that doesn't make sense. And so that's why it's so important to have such a good team around you too. Um, and so yeah, I mean, this is an intriguing thing, and when you start acquiring your businesses and getting them off the ground and all that, we might have to have you come back on the show and tell us about this new venture that you've got going on. And so, but as of today, right, it sounds like real estate is still your primary assets under management that you've got. Where does your portfolio stand today in terms of, and you can give us rough numbers if you don't have it off the top of your head, but in terms of like how many assets do you own? Like, what's the total amount of assets? What's the like passive income that you're generating from that? And you said you're financially free by 33. And so curious as to like how you knew you were financially free, what your number was, all that good stuff.
yeah. Rough number, I think we have, including the investment properties and my personal properties, 15 units total. I want to say the whole portfolio is probably around 2.6, 2.7 million, depending on, how the market's feeling that day. But in terms of how I knew I was financially free, so budgeting is important. A lot of people poo-poo budgeting, but it's like, if you don't know how much you are spending or you need to spend, then how do you know if you can afford it? So it's not only like what is measured gets managed. I think that's a big part of it too, that people don't give enough credit for. But just knowing what my outlays are, what my expenses are, allows me to figure out, okay, and I am ballparking a little bit, but here's, because I don't have a housing expense, my monthly expenses are around $1,500 a month, and I far exceed that with my monthly cash flow from my real estate. So that, to me, that's financially free, right? Like, I'm not going to go charter a private jet to Venice next week. Maybe in a couple of years we'll be at that point, but like that, I'm not at I can do whatever I want stage, but I don't have to sacrifice my quality of life. That's what it means to me. I can continue living and doing what makes me happy and be fulfilled and not really, not want for much, as long as it's not, again, like caviar and Ibiza, private jet, etc. So I'm comfortable. I'm happy. I have everything I need. And not to get too philosophical, but like, I think that's something that a lot of people overlook. And maybe this is because I just finished The Gap in the Gain, but people are always like striving for more, striving for more, striving for more. And I think part of financial freedom is acknowledging that it doesn't take much to keep you satisfied and fulfilled. So that's one thing that I've, I guess, learned over the past couple of years that has made a big difference, where I'm not striving for $1 million a year. I can be perfectly content and happy and fulfilled on, just covering my basic needs. And I still go skiing quite a bit. Like that's not cheap, but stuff like that, it's the little stuff.
Yeah, I think it's important to know like, hey, when is enough, right? And when are you like, and just because you have enough right now doesn't mean 3 years from now it will be enough. And so you might have to get back on your horse and like, but you know what to do. You know how to invest in real estate. You've got a pretty good understanding on how to buy businesses. Like if let's say, I don't know, a crazy thing happens, like you meet a girl that actually likes you back.
Impossible.
Impossible. And so like, and she doesn't want to live on $1,500 a month. She wants to live on $5,000 a month. And so it's like, all right, well, now you got more work to do, and that's fine. Right. And so, and it's not like you're going to be like idle here for the next few years anyway, but it's just nice to know that, hey, in this stage, you're pretty much stress free and you don't got to worry about anything. And yeah, I think that's huge, man. So congrats on your success. And it's almost like you spoke it into existence, like the financially free by 33. You've been saying that now for a few years. So
that's right. I've been working towards it. And that part of that is tracking everything, right? I was like, all right, I know where I need to get to. What do I, and work backwards. Like that's a great way to goal set too for everybody around the new year, is know your target and then figure out what it takes to get there. And to be clear, like you said, like I'm not slowing down. I'm not stopping. We're full steam ahead on buying a business, which like I said, on day one, like our target right now is day one, we walk into this business and we pay each of ourselves a $200,000 a year salary each. So we're looking essentially at a minimum of, now there's some other factors that go into it, but think essentially a minimum 400K EBITDA business is what we're looking to buy. So we're not slowing down. Like I enjoy this stuff. I love this stuff. There's other reasons I'm doing this other than money. But if I wanted to sit back and relax, I could definitely do so at least for a while. But that's not the plan.
I cannot get over the $1,500 a month. What does that consist of? And does that also include your businesses? Like the fixed costs of running your businesses?
No. So that's, and yeah, so I should have clarified that. That's really, like I said, that does include housing because I'm living for free in my current house hack. So no housing expenses. It's basically just food for me, food for my dog, and then fun. So that's really all it is. And then the businesses are separate. So that's personal expenses. All the business expenses are, they pay for themselves. Like it's all positive cash flow. I would say that's net at the end of the day because like that's after everything.
what kind of car do you drive?
I have a 2018 Ford F-150 Lariat.
Oh, how does that thing on gas? I feel like that's like F-150.
It's not bad actually.
Aren't too big, right?
Yeah. It's got the
number.
V6 EcoBoost. Yeah. So it's, I get like 20 miles a gallon on average. It's pretty good for a truck.
Awesome. Yeah. No, I always think that's like usually people's biggest expense outside of housing. So yeah, I mean,
that's been paid off since 2019. I paid it off like the year after I bought it. So, and I think that's another great point that you bring up that I think is important to stress is like, I'm not living on peanuts. Like I'm not living on, beans and rice. Like
you're having your avocado toast.
That's right. I'll go to Starbucks every once in a while. Like it, I'm not driving an old beater and nothing wrong with that. That's great. I was for a while, but like, I'm not making huge sacrifices in my opinion. I have a nice, fairly new truck. It's like not far from base model. Like I have nice things. I like nice things. Like I said, I like to go skiing. That's not cheap. You don't have to necessarily sacrifice maybe at first. And you have to put in the work to get there, but it's not always about like lean fi or like completely min running it and, like living in a shack or eating ramen for every meal. It's totally possible to live. And that was my criteria when I was like, I'm going to separate from the Air Force. I don't want to sacrifice my current standard of living, even though I'm going to lose a, 6-figure salary from the Air Force. So that was my criteria. And that's what I hit.
That was mine too. I get it. Yeah. I was like, I do not want to settle for anything less.
Right.
I've gotten used to this lifestyle, which is like all the more reason to just never let not never, but really try to postpone that lifestyle creep. Because once you get used to that, once you get used to, sitting in first class, you never want to go back to economy.
That is true.
I still don't know what that feels like.
I splurged one time, and on now every flight, I'm like, shit.
Every single time that I walk by the first class seats, I just like envision Allie sitting there like smirking to herself, like
Drinking champagne.
yeah.
hanging.
She's like, yeah. Even if it's not Allie, it's like I just see Allie in all the seats, like, hi. Yeah. Awesome. All right, Dean, you got a great story, bro. And obviously you're a good friend of mine as well. And so it was great to have you on. Before we kick you out, though, we need to go into what we lovingly call our final four.
Okay, starting off with the first question. You mentioned that you already read The Gap in the Gain. What book are you currently reading right now?
So I just started last week building a story brand. That is one of the areas that I do not do great at, is storytelling and real connective communication. So that's one of the things I'm trying to work on now. And it's been, honestly, I'm 40 pages in. It's been like already a revolutionary book. It's awesome. Highly recommend it.
Nice. I have it sitting in my shelf, and I'm just like, I'll get to that one later. Okay, maybe I'll put it a little bit higher.
Yep, that's exactly how I was for a while. So I finally took the leap.
Amazing. Dean, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
That's tough. I've received a lot of good advice and recommendations from folks, but probably I'm going to butcher this, but it's a Hormozy quote. Do the amount of work that is required, not the amount of work that you are willing to do or are capable of, or something like that. Like it's do what's required, not what's comfortable or something. So bottom line is the universe doesn't care about you. Like that sounds a little morbid, but like it doesn't matter if you think that this is the right amount of work. It's what the market determines, or it's what, it's what it's what's reality. So don't delude yourself into thinking like, oh, I'm working so hard and I deserve this. It's like, hey, if it takes 1,000 calls, you have to make 1,000 calls, period. Mm-hmm. Even if 500 is, what feels good.
Question number 3, you said it's not all about the money. What's your why?
My why is memento mori. So remember that you will die. I have always resonated with or felt drawn to early retirement. That's part of the reason I got into the military. Is I'm like, you mean I can work 20 years, retire at 40 and have a full pension? Like, that sounds great. I get to retire 20 years earlier than everybody else. But so many of us work to, retirement age of 65. That's going up. And average life expectancy is around 80. So you mean to tell me that I get to work for 65 years just to enjoy 15 years and then die? That didn't really jive with me. So that's my why, is getting my time back and that time freedom.
I love it, man. All right, number 4 is a fun one. What secret conspiracy would you like to actually start letting other people know about?
Birds aren't real.
Tell me more.
Just kidding. Just kidding. Have you guys heard that one?
Oh yeah. Not in depth.
Why do you think? Yeah. Why are they always on the telephone wires charging?
They're recharging. That's right. Yeah, it's actually a website. It's like a whole community. It's pretty funny.
I don't know if I.
Yeah. I don't know if I have like a good conspiracy theory that I actually think is credible. All the conspiracy theories I've had are just facts. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true.
Conspiracy. So maybe like microplastics. Like I think that's actually just real. It's like we're getting all these nanoparticles and microplastics from all this disposable, water bottles and stuff, that it's just actually really freaking bad for you. Craig, I know you're like way ahead of me on this one, but
we're on board. Yeah.
Wait, talk more about that.
I mean, I'm not an expert like Craig is, but I think it started with the what's the acronym? BPA, right?
Oh yeah, BPA. Yeah.
Yeah. So all the like water bottles that would leach the toxins into the water, and then everybody drinks it. And now you have 9 types of cancer. But like, it's not just the BPA. It's pretty much just like all plastic or disposable plastic out there. So use glass more, or use, I don't know.
Glass water bottle.
Yeah. Metal, glass. Yeah.
Yeah. I can add on a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, basically there's like tons of plastics, like in our water, in our food, in the air that we breathe, everything, everywhere. And so like, you really can't avoid it, but you can at least try to limit what's going into your body. And a lot of it is like, don't drink out of plastic water bottles, drink out of like glass or metal. Glass is really best, because even metal has some other stuff in it. But the other thing that people don't think about is
looking around like, oh crap.
My room's just full of
Yeah. What's probably the worst though, and what people don't think about is if you go to like Starbucks or go get a coffee and you get one of them like foam cups and it's got the plastic lining to prevent the liquid from seeping through. Um, that hot water like melts the plastic microparticles, and then you're drinking that hot coffee or hot tea or whatever you're drinking, and it's getting into your body. And so, if you're going to have a hot drink, you should really bring your own thermos or mug, and Starbucks will actually just take your mug, fill it for you, and do it that way. So, that's my health tip of the day.
Wow. I'm glad you guys mentioned that. Dean, do you remember like if you ever deployed how they would have just those pallets of like the cases of the water bottles and the water was blue. The water was blue because it's just melting out in the sun and like the Dasani or whatever brand it was, like the wrapper around it would get into the water, but that was the only water we had available to drink. And that's still the case now. Like the water is still, we're still drinking blue water out there. That's where I was like, oh, I don't think this is good. But you're just so thirsty and there's nothing else to drink. So damn, I'm guessing we're gonna have
The
some
burn pits of the 21st century.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where can people find out more about you in your crazy ways?
Yeah, so probably most active on Instagram right now at the Dean of Wealth. We did actually also start being more consistent with our business buying newsletter. So that would be clearedforacquisition.com/subscribe if people want to join that and kind of, we try to take people through our journey and what we're learning along the way. We're certainly no experts at this point, but we're learning a ton and we're sharing hopefully what we're learning and some best practices and lessons from everything we listen to and all of our firsthand experience as well. So we definitely want to encourage other folks to look into that more because it's a great fit for a lot of people, especially if you have a higher income that you want to replace versus that's the one advantage or one of the big advantages that we feel it has over real estate is, you can't get $100,000 a year of cash flow from real estate right off the bat. You can in the right business acquisition. So I say those are probably the two best spots.
That's awesome. I just signed up.
Ooh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm anxious to hear you guys' feedback too after the next couple of editions. So
You just got 2 new subscribers, Dean.
hell yeah,
You just doubled your reader count.
doubled our subscribership. Yeah.
Awesome, Dean. Well, hey, thanks so much for coming on the show, bro. It's a pleasure to hear about you, hear about your story. It's always good to catch up.
Thank you guys. Yeah,
We'll be chatting with you soon, man. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Dean.
awesome. Thanks, guys. It was a blast.
And that was Dean Valentini. Allie, what do you think of Dean? Sorry, I can't even say his name is Dean anymore because someone said Dean Valentini one time. It's in my head forever.
Stuck. Yeah, that happens. No, Dean's a cool cat. And very smart guy. He has a voice for radio too. He's very smooth. I can just imagine what he sounds like up in the air, like on the radio.
Pilot to co-pilot 21364. Entering into Denver International Airport. Over and out.
Yeah, but no, it's like he has a really cool story of just remaining consistent over time, being uncomfortable a little bit for the first couple of years, and then finally achieving his goal of what he had been saying for a couple of years of being financially free by 33. Like it's just you set your mind to something, you reverse engineer it. I mean, he is an engineer. And then you just get it. You just get it done.
Yeah, it's funny how almost everyone's story starts the same. You start out, you start making some serious sacrifices, you start paying some serious dues, live in uncomfortable situations, work really hard. And in a few years, all of your dreams have come true, like at least to some extent. And now you're living a totally different life when you thought that you never imagined, all because of a couple of years of of hard work. And so, when people go ahead and trade 40 to 45 of their best years in exchange for 15 of their worst when they subscribe to the American dream lifestyle, or you work maybe 50, 25 to 50% harder than those people, and you get probably 85 to 90% of your life back, right? It's just the asymmetrical, right? The numbers just don't even make sense as to why you wouldn't do that. So I think Dean figured that out. Allie, I know you figured that out. I'm still running the numbers, but I'm pretty sure we're all on the same page. But yeah, guys, so if you like this episode, if you wouldn't mind, please leaving us a rating and review on Spotify, on iTunes, on wherever you're listening. tremendously helps our show grow, and it helps us see some feedback from what y'all are getting as well. All right, Allie, I guess that sums it up for us this week. And with that being said, we'll see you all next week.
See ya.
That's it for this episode of Investify. We hope that these nuggets of real estate wisdom lead to more savvy financial planning and a clearer path towards financial freedom. For more content like this, subscribe to the show at investify.com. Don't forget to leave a rating and share it with your friends. Together, we can transform more real estate newbies into successful and clever investors. Thank you so much for listening. See you on the next one.